Welcome to the Rebel Rise podcast, a place where values-driven founders on a mission for more come to connect, learn, and grow. Here, we celebrate the relentless spirit of leaders building businesses that create real good for their clients, communities, and the world. No subject is off limits, and every episode is designed to bring you clear strategy, steady leadership, and people-first operations you can actually sustain. Get ready to grow ethically, lead well, and build something that works without burning you out. Your impact journey begins right here. Let's go. Today, I'm sitting down with my good friend, Brandi Munguia, who has been with us on the podcast before, but she has had some massive shifts and changes in her world since the last time she's been here. So I am so excited to share with you all what she's been up to. Brandi Munguia is the founder of Her Collective and a strategy advisor to high impact founders and entrepreneurs. Her work focuses on helping leaders build premium offers and communities through aligned authority, scaling where clarity, integrity, and human connection coexist. I cannot wait to share this conversation with you all today. So let's get started. Welcome, Brandi. I am so excited to have you back.
So happy to be here. My goodness. Thank you so much for having me back. It's such an honor and a privilege to come back into this space and get to share with your audience some really cool updates and things that are coming to life. So happy to be jumping in here.
Yeah, I'm literally so excited for us to talk about all of the new stuff that you have happening, because even though we did a show together in season 1, you have literally had not like a complete 180, but you've had a lot of things shift since your last visit with us. So I'm so excited to dive into it. So excited for them to get to know this new version of you. And I know they already know a little bit about your background. So I would love to just dive into kind of from where you were. How did we start to shift into this new version that you've become?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's been anyone that's listening. I hope that you also have that tenacity to continuously lean into who you're becoming, because we're consistently evolving. We're consistently outgrowing that previous version of ourselves. And when you lean deeper into your courage and you take courageous action, you make decisions, you step further and deeper into your essence fully and unapologetically you. And so when we look at this season of growth and becoming, there's a lot of decisions that I made in regards to stepping deeper into my own essence and what I wanted to do. And anyone that's listening here that has done some really amazing things in your life and in your careers, and you know there's something more there. You know that there's something of a turning point where you could be honoring yourself, your skill, your experiences, and giving back to the people that you serve in this way. And there's nothing wrong with doing big, amazing, great things and expanding further into what you're doing next. So for me in particular, that was launching my business, and not just launching, almost like a relaunch, because I've had a business for several years, and it was kind of this rebrand into what I'm doing with Her Collective and the Aligned Authority. And it's so incredible to fully honor and kind of transition all of that acumen into this next iteration of my business and my brand. So it's been phenomenal. And I just love that we get to chat about this, because business comes in seasons. And whether you're working on something yourself or you're contributing to someone else's umbrella of brand and business, expansion happens all around. So what does that look like for you? You know, as the person listening, like, how are you expanding, and how are you going to deeper expand this year into this next version of you? So
Yeah,
Long story long there.
no, I love that. It was such a good opening. And, as I'm listening, obviously I know a lot of the story behind the scenes. And so what I would love to have you kind of dive into is the process of letting go of safety, or like the
Yeah,
presumption of safety, because in
yeah,
order for you to expand into this new version of yourself, there were some things that had to be shed, and some things that you had to pass up on that really most people consider a safety net. And so I think
100%.
that's where a lot of people kind of slow down, and what prevents them from growth. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh my goodness. I'm glad that we talk about this, because sometimes there's a veil of safety when in reality, is it really safe to
Mm.
abandon yourself? Is it really safe to keep playing small in a way where in my case, some people would look at my circumstance at the time and say, you're playing big though, you're in a big arena, like you're doing these big things and you have this role and these titles, and it's like, and I still felt that awareness that I would never be able to fully actualize my fullness with a title, right? It's like letting yourself truly actualize who you are and your ability as a business owner, versus a contributor. There's two different tones that come with that. And that was something that was starting to become very aware of in myself, in my spirit of recognizing that I was needing to grow again. As I had grown so much in that role and in that space, it was like, gosh, how could I be growing again? What's next? And I think a lot of listeners here might resonate with that feeling of what's next when you've met pinnacles, success points where you're like, I can't believe I achieved this. I can't believe I've come here. I can't believe I'm in this intersection of what's next. And this is where I would compel the listener to really trust yourself, your discernment, and your sovereignty. There's this ability to calibrate in any circumstance, this ability to persevere, this ability to not only stabilize no matter the choices that you make, it's your self-trust to make things happen. If you can have big things happen in an arena and trust yourself to make those things happen, you will always get far in a state of contribution. And what I mean by that is, even in this turning point of me opening my doors in my business and opening up spaces for strategic advisory and taking on new clients and taking on new projects and doing all these incredible things, there's a discernment of self-trust that comes with, I know what I'm capable of. And if you can transfer all of that skill and that acumen over to yourself, you might be really pleasantly surprised on what you're capable of. And it's a deep discernment, an understanding of, I know what I can do when I don't take my foot off the gas. If I could put my foot on the gas in contribution, in all the ways that I contribute into my audiences, into the people I serve, into the other people's audiences, any ways that you can contribute, that contribution will come back to you tenfold. And if there's one thing you know about yourself, anyone listening here today, is that anytime that you have gone all in on you and how you give, it comes back. It comes back tenfold. And that's something you can trust when you're launching a new business or you're launching into a new version of you, is that how can you lean into what you know best, and where could you seek to serve without expectation? Because if you seek to serve in spaces and audiences that you can lead as a thought leader, that's going to just come back to you in magnetic energy. People will see you as the thought leader that you are. And when you don't contribute with expectation, right? When you just contribute without expectation and you truly contribute with your truest essence, your truest authenticity, your truest desire to give, people will naturally want more. They'll naturally be questioning, well, what's next? So while you're playing in the what's next, they're also like, what's next, right? So
Yeah.
it's like it's really beautiful if you just let that take its root and allow yourself to expand through your contribution. The clientele will come naturally, but it's what got me successful in the big arena in the first place, was the ability to contribute. So when I looked at how can I contribute in this new arena that I'm building, that's mine, I looked at where can I serve and where can I support and where can I allow myself to just be who I am unapologetically, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's those pieces that are so valuable when we're making turning point decisions, is trusting your discernment to stabilize and knowing that through your ability to contribute in your thought leadership and in your full essence, it will come back to you. It will absolutely elevate you and stabilize you in ways you never thought possible, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I think, this is where a lot of us get caught up, right? Because we get stuck in this idea of perfection or overperforming. I've
Right.
worked with enough people now to where I know we're in this industry, meaning just being a business owner, right? Like being an
Mhm.
entrepreneur in general, by nature, we're kind of perfectionists and we kind of want people to edify us and to tell us that we're doing a good job, right? And
Right.
so
Right.
when it comes to making a major shift, whether you are maybe pivoting your entire business, like maybe you're going from a brick and mortar into a completely digital space, or
Right.
maybe you want to add speaking on to, whatever, and offer your
Yeah.
expertise that way
Yeah.
too. There is this doubt that comes in, and you start to question yourself all over again and wonder if you're even capable. Can you
Yeah.
do this? Are you going to add enough value? But you're right. As soon as you can to step out of your own mind for a minute, right? Which is also why coaches have coaches, right? And
Yes.
entrepreneurs have coaches, is to help
Yes,
them be able to
absolutely.
sidestep that. And that's been something I've really admired about you as you've been navigating through this process of making this decision to choose yourself and
Yeah.
make this major pivot, because it
Yeah.
hasn't been easy. And like I already said, you did have to detach yourself from some major things. And it's a huge lesson that I am still sitting with, and trying to figure out what that version means for me. But that's what I really want to highlight for everybody, is that no matter where you're at, whether you're just starting out or maybe you are somebody who has $1 million business, if
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like something that's in alignment with you anymore, you can change your mind at any time.
100%.
You can change your focus if something else is lighting you up more. Or here's something that I'm sitting with right now, is in Benefit Bar in my other business, I bought a trailer, this beautiful trailer that I was so excited about. And I was so sure that I was going to get buku bookings off of this thing. I was like, as soon as I get it, we're going to blow up. But that's not what we always think, right? Like, I'm going to flip the lights on for this offer and everybody's going to line up. And I've had it for about 6 months now, and I haven't had anybody book it. I've got plenty of
Mm.
business, but everybody
Right.
wants the pop-up trailers. And so the thing that, the practical story that I want to add into this piece is, now I'm sitting with the decision as a business owner. Do I sell the trailer because I've been paying for it for 6 months without any
Mm.
return on the value? Or
Mm.
do I hang
Mm.
on to it and see what happens and try to pay it off and hope it just works out? And
Right.
which part of that is the emotional attachment that I have to the concern that me selling the trailer might make me look less successful,
Mm.
or,
Mm.
that it somehow equates to the success of that business and how
Mm.
I look externally to other people as a business owner. And
Mm.
so I've been sitting a lot with really the same theme, where I'm like, okay, I need to make the decision for the survival of the business.
Right.
And it doesn't really matter, right? So it's just a way for me to realign in
Right.
a different way. I'm not shifting my entire business model, but for me in this particular situation, if the market isn't there for it, I
Yeah.
serve primarily corporate clients. So they want a pop-up
Yeah.
bar inside the building. Right.
Right.
And
Right.
so I just wanted to share that because it really illustrates it doesn't matter where you're at.
Yeah.
Things are going to
Yeah.
be uncomfortable, and you got to
Yeah.
lean in and trust that you're making the best decision for yourself, for your
Absolutely.
business,
for your team if you have one. And
Yeah.
most of the time it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. And there's this ability to have presence under pressure because what I admire about what you share here is the transparency of pressure. When you have something that you've invested in, maybe you don't see the return on investment right away. And it's this pressure of, do I continue in the persistence to see this through for a year, see if it takes 1 year for it to calibrate? Do I cut the losses, rip the Band-Aid? There's like these different thoughts, but then there's this small voice of discernment that comes forward that says, like, I trust myself. If I was to kick up marketing in this particular area, expanding to events that are maybe not only corporate, but they're in a season of because the spring season's around the corner, and that's like when the weather's so giving and so wonderful, and then the weddings start kicking in and all that stuff. So it's like, where does the attention flow in a way that says, do I reframe how I'm positioning myself and see how that might kick up business differently? Do I let go of it and continue with what I know what works? Or do I just take a pause, right? And there's these moments where I get this. We're always in a season of being able to reinvent ourselves anytime we can pivot in our messaging, in our marketing, in our brand remains the same, but the messaging can shift. So even in my last couple months of being in launch and listening and watching kind of where my my thought leadership is naturally being seen, and reframing what I'm known for in a way that's like, what are you known for? Right. So if you're only known for corporate events, but you want to expand into private events, then what does that look like in the pivot? Right. And that's where sometimes we pivot. I pivoted in ways where I recognized I really am known for curating private spaces. Like, that's something that I've done really well in my tenure and in my career, but also something I'm really passionate about. I've been involved in event spaces for well before I was ever a part of my previous career. And I've been in the event space for 10, 15 years. And so when I was looking at what do I want for myself, I went to what I knew. For like the quick win of, I knew how to quickly generate communities. I knew how to quickly generate like teaching in my certain areas of focus that I love to teach in. But then I recognized there was, as I was going out to other events, what I really enjoyed was being that strategic advisor, being able to cultivate and architect event spaces, and curate high ticket offers or private spaces. Really love that part. I wasn't marketing that part because I recognized that was very much referral based, very much word of mouth. It's more of a whisper campaign than it is, posting about it on social media, that kind of stuff. And so, yes, can you have multifacets to your business where, yes, can you be known for corporate events, and can we start nurturing some of the other areas that you want to expand in what that would look like for marketing efforts, or going to certain events where you could potentially meet the right fit clientele, the expansive clientele that's going to help you expand. And especially in the area that you're in, where it's such a hot spot for weddings and events, and also there's this expansion that can happen. My marketing brain starts going off on all the different expansive ways, but it's like the decision to continue something when there's pressure, right? That's what we're discussing here, is where do we continue when there's pressure? I knew it was like, I invested a lot in my like startup bit, and then becoming net positive took like really the ability to connect with the right people, expanding in my investment range and what it looked like for people to invest in me. Sometimes it's raising your price points to make it worth saying, hey, this is what it is. And with your experience, You can even maybe raise the prices that might make sense. If you stay in the lane of corporate entity, then what does it look like to raise the price points for that to be exclusive to, especially given your portfolio and the corporate events that you've done? You can really highlight that is a premium service and making that price point reflective so that it at least the revenue now balances out, versus if it's not adding additional lanes to who you serve, could it be raising the price point? That was a big game changer in my new iteration of my business, was really stepping back, honoring my experience and placing my investment price points at that to be reflective of my experience, not just me saying, oh, I'm launching again. I had to realize I wasn't launching again. I was coming from experience. I was in scale. It just was like a rebrand at scale,
Yeah.
And it was that part that we can look at as, where could you quickly scale? Where could you 10x? To the listener here, you're hearing two contrasting things, right? The listener's hearing like, yes, you can have service base and you can have product base. And what's unique with Vanessa in particular is she's got this hybrid experience where she can be in person with you. She has a team, but then she also has the ability to do virtual coaching and all these other pieces on the virtual side. And she navigates both very effectively. But when our attention is divided in this way, even trying to think about new marketing expedition here, you're like, how about no? Like, it's like one of those things that's like, it's like, can I? Yes. Do I want to? I don't know. Like, that's the part where I've had to enter that conversation with myself too. Like, do I want to keep nurturing this like mid-ticket item here? Or do I really want to like pursue my high ticket opportunities, because I have that access as well. And it's like, we can do both. And where do we want to put our attention? Like, where do we really want to be aligned? Because if there's misalignment, we're feeling that disconnect happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm somebody who I really sit with things and I like to analyze them and just think about like, what would it look like in this scenario? And what would it look like to do this? Because I am not somebody who's scared to just try something. I'm not scared to just roll
like,
something out.
Done. Yeah.
And so I'm curious though, do you have maybe your process is similar, but if not, do you have a framework that you follow that aligns with your level of discernment that kind of helps you to gauge that and to make the final decision? Because I find myself a lot of time too, sitting there being like, God, I wish somebody could just make this decision for me. No matter how successful I become in business, I'm like, where's like my business mom or my business dad? Like, can't they just, right? Like it doesn't matter. So
no, I get it. No, it is, when you're operating from owner operator, because a lot of us, when we're in the first couple years of business, it's very much owner operator. And so you are the decision maker. There's not that person that can just like, say, we're going to do this. So one of the things that I do when I look at, is this the right fit for me? Because in the last couple of months, I've had some learning moments where I recognize like, there were some clients I needed to step away from. They were actually not aligned with me. So it was like me making those decisions to pull back. Times where I've leaned in deeper with the client to truly like build that trust, and seeing that is someone who's expansive and someone I want to be, working with alongside. Because when we look at who we take on, is also asking, is this what I want? Is this what I want to continue to foster in my brand? And really allowing the self to say no to what's not aligned. And that was something that I had to become aware of what I was tolerating in my behaviors as a contributor. I will sometimes recognize that I have a pattern of self-abandonment where I will contribute to self-abandonment, where I will give and think that, oh, that person's going to have the same integrity as me. I can trust the situation. And then I learn the hard way when they don't fulfill on the agreement. And it's like that part where we learn those hard lessons too in business, where we're like, dang it, I had this feeling, but I didn't want it. I didn't want to trust it. So like
Yeah.
one thing is like truly trusting that if it's a red flag, it's a red flag. If it's a yellow flag, it's a red flag. Okay. So what I mean by that is that if it feels like a red flag at all, it needs to be treated like it's a red flag, whether it's client-based or something that you're doing in your business. If it feels misaligned in any way, you're allowed to walk away, because what will happen when you say no to the things that are misaligned, more alignment actually comes at a higher capacity for you. And I've recognized that where I had said no to potential clients that were like, I just want to work with you, anything. And I just had this like inkling in my chest, or I was like, gosh, I just don't know if this is the right fit. Like, just because I can doesn't mean I necessarily want to. And that's the part where I recognize we don't want to leave money on the table. You're a business owner. We don't want to leave money on the table. But what if that person seems resistant from the beginning? What will it cost you if you say yes to that person, knowing that they're showing signs of red flag behavior? Knowing that they might be someone who uses your service and then asks for a refund after they've gotten everything that they wanted, or they use your time, your service, and they don't pay you up front. And so now they're like, now you're giving, right? You're contributing, you're being you and being kind, and they're not actually seeking to invest in that service. So there's these balance points that I look at when I am like in my discernment. We've worked with enough people at this point where we know what a red flag is a red flag, and to just skip it over. You can always find ways to still nurture individuals without sacrificing yourself. There's ways to set boundaries without sacrificing yourself. Also learned, I needed to lean into contracts better. Like that was something I learned very deeply over the last couple months of like, when a contract comes to life, learning to be objective versus emotional in your business discussions with potential clients or partnerships or whatever you're entering in your next iteration of what you're doing next. Really just look at, how can I protect myself? It doesn't mean that I'm selfish. It means that I have discernment and I'm willing to be objective versus emotional. Come to the terms with your clients. Don't hope that they're going to be on the same page as you, because you have to set expectations for them so that the expectation does not get made by them. If you don't set expectations from the get-go of what is the agreement or what is your brand or whatever the expectations are, if you don't set those expectations, then they will be made for you. And so it's important that as you're making decisions in your business, to be able to be objective. And it's okay to be objective. It doesn't mean that you're being transactional, okay? Because some things are transactional. A service agreement, those kinds of things, they're transactional. The relationship doesn't have to be transactional, but sometimes with some people, it is. They are seeking to get a service from you or get something from you, and they've invested in it, and it doesn't have to be emotional. That's fine. So that's where like we look at being objective in our business decisions is probably what has been one of my bigger turning points in what I'm doing now. Is like, I have the contracts in place. I hired a business lawyer to make sure they're drafted correctly, and that I'm having those conversations faster versus just giving the service or giving the things away. Like, it's like, I give plenty of free value on social media or other things, but I cannot do that with my time anymore, right? And so that quickly shows the trust that's between a contract, so it doesn't get up in the air, So I don't know if that quite answers the question, but it's one of those things about the discernment piece is like objectivity and protecting yourself, because handshake deals don't work. And your heart to serve can still be your heart to serve, and you get paid. It's like, be kind and still get paid. Be kind and still, lean into being objective in your decision making, and saying no to things that are misaligned. Saying no to something now can bring better opportunity later. Like that I've learned that lesson for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with so much of that. And I also think that this piece of discernment that we're talking about and being able to make the best decision on your own without anybody else doing it for you is really just about working that muscle of learning to trust yourself. You know, just like you said, like handshake deals don't work, but you
Yeah.
know that because you tried it and it didn't
Yeah.
work. And then you started to find, right? You started to find new ways that do work. Something that I've experienced too, like having employees is,
Yeah.
you know, it's the same thing. If you feel a little bit like maybe I really like this person, but it feels a little bit off, I haven't been
Yeah.
wrong with that so far.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, you know, I can kind of start to see the trajectory of them just going down, down, down. And it's like not necessarily in performance, but it is just like them starting to pull back and pull away. And I'm like, okay, like maybe that wasn't such a good decision. But what it shows me is that I actually had the discernment from the beginning, and I saw the writing on the wall, so to speak, ahead of time.
Yes.
And so I think too, the other piece is like, you know, even with what I'm sitting with in my other business, or even in this one, like for my consulting, I'm a one-man show. So I don't have a team. It's not the same issues, but I just like you were saying, I've got to learn to trust my gut instinct on what is the best business decision. What are the things that I should be focusing on that are going to have the greatest ROI? What is it that my market is asking for? And then instead of sitting on it and just thinking, well, maybe I'll do that someday, or, you know, maybe I'll start this marketing campaign here. You know,
it's like doing things imperfect gets it done faster than ruminating on the perfection of it.
And
like
even,
I put things out and I was like, oh, I'm going to change that later. Like,
100%. Do you know how many times I've changed my brand colors? I've changed the names of my programs. I've changed so many things that like I no longer, and that's why I said I'm so good at just doing the thing, because I'm like, it doesn't have to be perfect, because anybody else looking at it is going to think it's great anyway, because it wasn't their idea. Like every time I see something
different.
Exactly. They don't know any different. They didn't come up with it. So they don't know like what your original plan was for it anyway. And this very much is, I feel like a lot of people that I work with also have this issue. They get stuck in this idea of like, well, I've had this thing and it's been working. And since I've had this level of success, I don't know if I want to make any changes, because what if I looked bad? Or what if it failed? What if people saw me not do well? Or what if I look bad getting rid of employees that I know aren't going to work out, and that I knew this was a bad hire, but I did it anyways. To just lean into it. And like you said, take the emotion out of it. It's strictly a business decision. How does it look when you step out of the situation?
Yeah, you got to be able to look at things from an observatory role versus an engaged role.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there's, I have this really great mentor. She's amazing. She talked to me about like what it's like to get out of the sand pit and that you've been playing in, and go sit under the tree. Go sit under the tree and watch the sand pit and decide, is this something I want to engage with? Or do I need to observe and then engage?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes if we step out, we remove ourselves, we observe it in a way that says like, do I want to continue this way? Then we're able to make more objective decisions. And in business, when we look at, I would rather have people see me make mistakes and humanize the experience of being an entrepreneur than coming through on a perfection standpoint. I want people to see me change and still maintain success. Success can evolve in its seasonal too. Like some seasons are better than others. Some months are higher earning than others. Sometimes you have an invoice pending and you're like waiting, for that to come through. It's like, and you're on pins and needles. Like, is this going to be, are we going to come to fruition here? Like it's all these different things that go into business. And as it expands and it scales, the decisions that have to be made, sometimes when we make a decision in the moment, because we're like, this seemed like a great hire. And then we see like that person's performance dip, or that person's not as bought in as they were 6 months ago. And in a contracting sense, you can end the contracts with them and saying, you know, you're 1099, this is an at-will position. Like this just isn't a right fit right now. And not having to go deeper and explain. If they want explanation and it is due to their performance, then you have data to point back to and saying, you know, based off of the data of you showing up consistently late, you not fulfilling on the agreements that we had, you know, whatever the case may be. I've had to walk many founders and CEOs through these conversations that they feel so much guilt of letting go of someone because they had a wish for their performance. They had a wish for their the potential of that person. And I said, we can't continue to lose money because of someone's potential. We have to take things for what they are, and we have to act on what is, not a what if. And the what is often requires the Band-Aid to be ripped off and saying, you know what is happening right now is this person's underperforming, or this system isn't needed, or whatever that case may be where Band-Aids need to be ripped, is saying what is, not the what if. Now, I recognized earlier in our conversation, we had that conversation about the decisions that have to be made that are heavy. Sometimes those do weigh on a what if, but that's on your discernment, on your decision, not based off of a teammate or those types of things. It's based off of your ability to fulfill on certain things, and looking at it from the owner's eyes versus the system or the process or the person that's in place other than you, which is why a lot of owners struggle with being their own bottleneck, because they don't want to delegate. They want control over everything. But when they take a chance to delegate, like you've done as well, sometimes it doesn't work out. So it puts them back in a space of, well, I guess I'm just going to handle it all myself, versus ripping off the Band-Aid and then finding someone else. And you would rather have the temporary dip and training someone else that may actually be a wonderful fit, who could wear all the hats and do an excellent job. So it's like also letting go of the loss. When something doesn't go the way you thought it was going to go, you let go of the loss, the temporary dip where you might need to fulfill a little bit as the owner for a second, owner operator hat on. And then you pass the torch to a new hire that could be the best decision you make, right? So it's that trust that, yes, sometimes we make a decision where we see potential and the potential doesn't get fulfilled. So we have to quickly choose to remove the potential, take for what is, not what if, and make a decision on what is. And then we bring in something new that could be an excellent expansion in the business. And that just comes with the time and the ability to, again, trust temporary pain or temporary pressure for the long-term gain.
Yeah. And I'm curious, since you are really specializing in the event space with these founders now, do you see the same stuff crop up when they're trying to put on events?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think one of the hardest things I've watched with some of the founders is they have people in roles that, and when we're talking about decision making, my gosh, I've seen where they have the wrong people making decisions for them. And sometimes it's a family member that they've hired that was supposed to be a temporary fix and should have not been a long-term commitment, or they need to restructure some roles where someone's gotten really comfortable and they do not have experience and they're making decisions, and that's showing up in the decisions they're making for the events. I've watched where, people feel like, oh, I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. I don't want to tell them they can't speak at this event. And I said, and now you're going to be an event overtime lapse that venue needs you out at this time. You don't have that hour to give. You would rather pull the plug on somebody speaking and find something else for them to contribute to another future event, or there's other ways you can have that person contribute that doesn't cause harm to the run of show and the outcomes. The other is people who really overpromise and underdeliver, like they did not expect how much an event would cost. And for an event experience to fully be in a fruition, there's an event cost that comes with that, as you know. And sometimes if you don't fulfill on that, the people who paid into that experience, they're feeling a disconnect where they're like, dang, I paid, 20 grand to be here, 10 grand to be here, whatever the price point is. And they're like, this lacks luster, right? So it's like when you look at like, sometimes when you're in the event space and you're really there to curate trust, and if there's a disconnect because someone it was in place that does not know what they're doing, and they try to produce an event, and now the owner shows up, who's host and who's the face of this event, and is like, well, this didn't go the way I planned, right? And it's like watching it happen in a state of, oh man, like had I been brought in sooner, we could have avoided this. I tell, it's like I say with people, do you want it done or do you want it done right?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you can get people in that they'll get it done, but it's not their expertise. It's not something that they're familiar with. They don't know what they're doing. They're willing to contribute. They're trying to help, but because it's not their expertise, they're going to get it done, but it may not be done right. It may not be done right or well, I should say. Like if you want it done well and with excellence, you got to bring the people in that is their expertise, because they will get it done with excellence. They'll consolidate and make things concise. They'll keep you tight within your budget. They'll fulfill on what you want because that's their zone of genius. And when you have players in place that do not have that experience, although they lead with all the positive intention in the world, and sometimes not always, the fulfillment doesn't come through in the essence of what you intended.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's important to remove people from roles that they can't perform in and place the people in the roles they enjoy performing in. Because if you let people fly in their zone of genius, I'll tell you right now, you will get the best experience from them. If you keep trying to put a square peg in a round hole, it's not going to work.
Yep.
They say that a lot in the industry, but it's so, so true. I've seen it in restructuring teams for clients where I'm like, let me talk to these individuals. Let me talk to them. Just let me see, like, what do they actually enjoy? And I said, man, we got to put this person who is really operationally sound. They enjoy that. Put them there. Stop trying to make them be people facing when they don't enjoy that. Like, it's like they don't want to be people facing, but you keep trying to put them in front of people because you're like, oh, they're great with people. And they're like, they might be great, but they also might be energetically drained. And they just don't enjoy performing like that. Their performance, they would feel better crossing the T's and dotting the I's and finding the gaps and fixing it faster than putting them in front of people. Like, it's like that kind of stuff. It's like find that person's zone. But anyways, long story long, because that's a little multifaceted response to that question. But yeah, I see it all the time. The owner's often their own bottleneck because they don't want to get out of the way. Like they don't want to bring someone else on because they fear that someone's not going to handle it. And then now they're wearing too many hats and they can't get it done. And they're missing pieces because they were too fearful of bringing someone on that could take that piece from them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it all goes back to, it really fits into this whole theme, right? No matter where you're at, you've got to have the discernment and the trust in self. But I think what's really cool is that people have options. You don't have to make all of these decisions by yourself. That's why, people like you and I exist. That's why consulting is a thing and why high level strategy is a thing. And I love that we both do that with different focuses because it's always fun for us to catch up on that stuff. But I think that's the beauty too of especially what you do, because events are crazy. People don't, you're right. People don't know how much it's going to cost or how to
They sound so much fun until you get into the weeds of them,
Yeah. And like the sheer overhead of it. And so I love, and I've had the pleasure of watching you work in that zone of genius and really develop and hone your craft and, the community piece as well. And so it's been so fun for me to get to watch you do that. And I'm so glad that is your main focus. And that being said, if anybody is looking for this type of high level strategy partner for the next move in their business, how can they reach you, Brandi?
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for saying that and for that kindness and because it is a different beast and you have seen me in the arena and I really appreciate that feedback. So thank you so much for that. And anyone that if there's anything I can ever do to support anyone, easiest way to find me is just go to my website. It's brandimunguia.com, first name, last name.com. That's it. All my social media is there. You can find me and shoot me an email or reach out to me on social media. I'm always happy to support. But thank you so much, Vanessa, for having me here today and for the conversation. I hope the listeners really leaned in and heard that there's so much power in your ability to have discernment, to make tough decisions under pressure, and to also have patience when there's pressure. That it is all temporary. It will all dissipate over time. You're always going to have what feels like impossible choices to make. What's important is that you make choices and we don't get frozen. When we make choices and we take action, we will see things progress and compound, and you will ultimately persevere.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been such a great conversation. It's been so fun to dive into this. And I also would love to know from anybody who's listening, if something in here resonated and it really hit you, I would love to have you, send me a message on social media. I'll be happy to share it with Brandi, or if you connect with her as well, we would love to hear it. You can tag us. I would really love to see where people are sitting at with this, because it's just so interesting to see, no matter what level again you're at, that these things always crop up. So
they do.
Yeah. They do. Thank you so much for coming on, Brandi. This was so fun. I feel like we're going to need a part 3 because there's so many other things that we could discuss, but having you back was incredible. And I'm so excited to share your next move. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Rebel Rise podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and invite your friends to join us next week. This is your time. Now get out there and rise.